Hello, everyone. I'm Dominique.
And I'm Christina, and we are the Connected in Glass podcast.
Every week, we will feature interviews with glass artists who speak to their creative processes and overcoming challenges.
These conversations are real and raw. We hope that by sharing these stories, you're able to find some connection and know that you're not alone.
We just wanted to take a moment to thank you for listening to our podcast. We're super passionate about this project and work for hours every week to bring you this content. So if you'd like to help support us, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/connectedinglass. Also, please consider joining our Facebook group, Connected in Glass Community, where we continue the conversations from these episodes. We'd love to hear from you.
Today, we're interviewing Beth James. Beth is a glass artist from Minnesota who started blowing glass in 2003. She specializes in creating Marini or Millies.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
All right. So we want to know all about you, but first we want to start with the basics. Maybe skip the glass part of your life for now. Tell us where you live, what you enjoy besides glass, and then kind of work us into the story of how you got to working with glass.
Okay. Well, I live in a little town in Minnesota and really don't have a lot of time to do anything other than glass because I have a 4-year-old and a teenager. So downtime is just like grocery shopping or cleaning up the house. But I do enjoy going hiking. And my son, the 4-year-old, he loves going hiking with me. Teenager, not so much. And I guess the other thing I really like to do is just thrift store shopping. Like, you got $50, you can go buy whatever you want. Pretty nice. Like a shopping spree on a Tuesday.
I can feel that. And tell us how you started working with glass.
Okay, well, my ex-husband had a job with Ripple Glassworks, and this was back in 2002. And he decided that he would like to work from home. So he kind of convinced me to buy the equipment in order to do it in our garage. He was like, I'll teach you if you invest in the equipment. And I'm like, okay, whatever, sure, I'll do it. Because I was already kind of artistic. I had gone to art school. And so I did that. And he kind of showed me what he knew, which was kind of minimal. He'd only been on the torch for about a year. But I just started making pendants. And one day at Ripple Glassworks, a guy that used to work for JBD, I forgot his name by now, he explained how millies are made, and he called it a millie. I had no idea what Marini was. And so I thought, oh, that was interesting. And then one day I was looking in a book. There's a section about building letters, and it was like fusing letters. But at the end of that chapter, it said this method can also be used to make Marini. And I'm like, what the hell is Marini? So I Google it and I'm like, oh, those are millies. So everything kind of clicked. And from that point on, I basically became obsessed with making Marini. I was like, I know how to do this. And my first successful pull, first one was like a little cluster. I guess you could call it a stringer stack, but it was like maybe 9 color rods just bundled together. And the second one I made was a Misfits themed skull. And that one I thought came out really well. And I weighed it up and I was like, oh my God, I'm never doing anything but this for the rest of my life. And that was 17 years ago. So here I am, still making Marini and actually able to not have a different job. Like I just make Marie. Pretty fun. I love the process.
And so are you kind of self-taught besides looking at books?
Yeah, for the first 4 years, I was just on my own and doing whatever I could do, whatever methods I could figure out in order to make it work. And there was a lot of trial and error. There was discovering colors that don't work. Like you make it and it's all garbage because it won't stay in one piece. Sometimes that happens. So after year 4, I found a class at the Revere Glass School, and Dave Strobel was teaching it. And what it was advertised at was advanced millie making. And I thought, oh, wow, I know how to make millies. I'd like to see what other people can do. Who else can make these and how do they make them? Because I had no idea what anybody else was doing to make them other than the little bit of description I got. So I go to this class and discover that it is beginning millie making for advanced glass workers, which was fine. But I did discover that Dave Strobel's method was very, very similar to what I was already doing. And so I was able to kind of pick his brain and get him to divulge a few more details and tricks and tips and, try and figure out how to make sharp edges and points. And he taught me to like taper the ends so that you have less garbage and less weight and less time, and just kind of polished up what I already knew and gave me more tips. So that was nice. I mean, I could say self-taught, but once Jesse and I got together, we just kind of started learning with each other, and just it kind of developed a life of its own. Just figuring new things out almost on a daily basis with Jesse.
So your partner does glass too, right? And how did you meet, and do you work from home together?
Well, we met at Glassroots in Wisconsin in 2012. And right from the get-go, it was just like, oh, okay, we just want to be next to each other. Like we just want to be together. It was very weird, but that hasn't really stopped. It's just kind of a magnetic thing. So I ended up moving out to Minnesota, where Jesse has a like a big shop, and there's a studio and an apartment inside it. And so we were living there for, gosh, a good 9 years, something like that, and working from home, working inside the same building. And just last year, I decided I don't really want to live in this shop anymore. I want to live in a real house. So I found a real house about 4 blocks away. And that's where we spend a lot of our time. And I also, instead of walking 4 blocks, I set up a studio in my own garage here. So we now have 2 homes kind of, but I don't really like staying at the shop at all. So I stay here. Jesse does whatever he wants down at his shop. And so it's always working from home. I'd rather work from home and be able to have like a baby monitor so I can know when my son wakes up. Just work in the morning, kind of work it in, because got a parent too.
Yeah, I was just thinking that about how it would be hard to raise a kid like inside of a shop. So it must be nice to have a home, and then you can have your shop right there too, so you can be present but also work.
Exactly. And I think the kids like it here a lot more. It's better for them to be in a real house in a neighborhood with neighbors and kids to play with. But, I mean, the teenager doesn't really go outside. But sometimes I get them out. They're happy to have windows.
So do you like create a schedule for yourself so that you know that you're working within certain time frames, or do you just kind of wing it on how you separate your days out?
Well, the way Jesse and I parent our 4-year-old is that I take care of him for 1 week and then Jesse takes care of him for the next week. So James and I do a lot of stuff together, and Jesse's around a lot, but I'm the one that's got to make his food, get him to bed, and, be the responsible one that week. And then I'm able to work a little bit while he's sleeping, because he sleeps like 12 hours. And then the other week, when Jesse's hanging out with James, I can get as much work done as I want. That's like my free time that week. So I have it kind of worked out with my teenager. I'm working in the shop that whole week constantly. But if they come out and say, hey, come eat lunch or come eat dinner, then I go inside and hang out with them for a good hour at least, because we're having a meal. Otherwise, I actually do push myself too much and don't take a break to eat and don't sleep enough. Like that whole week is always just a blur of get it done, get it done, get it done. And then the next week, I just take it easy. Kind of work in an hour or two here and there if I can. That's this week right now. You caught me on a hanging out with James week.
It's nice that you have like people in your life that are stopping you and making sure that you're actually taking care of yourself too.
I know, because I guess I have an obsessive nature. I've been obsessed with Marini for a very long time. And it's because it's become like what provides for my family. It's a lot easier to tell myself this is something that I have to put first, But yeah, they're definitely there to remind me, hey, you gotta take care of yourself.
Can you tell us a little bit of what inspires your Marini work?
Generally, it's nostalgia. I like to recreate the images that mean something to me, that remind me of childhood. I really was into the Ninja Turtles when I was a kid. So I was doing Ninja Turtles every single year for the first 4 years of just solely doing Marini work. And I probably should do them again because I'm out of them. But I don't know. I just really enjoy the cartoons, and the fact that these images have sharp edges and smooth lines is a challenge. It's hard to get a right angle in glass because it wants to round out, and it's hard to get straight, smooth lines. So the challenges are really what get me inspired. I'm like, I'm gonna nail that. Like, I know that I can do this better, so I just do my best. But yeah, definitely cartoons are my inspiration.
And when you're doing those, can you tell us more about like your creative process? Do you have an idea and you just like feel in the mood and you go and do it? Or are you filling orders or things that your customers are interested in?
That's a good question. Okay. So currently I am doing mostly custom orders. And since getting this house, I kind of fell behind. So I've just been pushing to get caught up, which I have kind of just about caught up now.
And so do you ever just go in and you're like, I'm going to do this today?
Oh, of course. Yes. So when I have a bunch of customs, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing today. And I guess I kind of have an idea of how far I'm going to get with it. which honestly, I think I shouldn't, because then at the end of the day, I'm disappointed because I didn't meet my own expectations sometimes, but it happened. Normally though, if I'm supposed to be working on a custom and I'm just not feeling it, it's not going to come out very well. So sometimes I will just take an hour or two and make a heart or a star or something simple, like, just to get a little creativity on the torch.
So, how do you get into that mindset of working? I know like it's easy once you're like going to just keep going and going and going like an Energizer bunny, but like to get in there, do you have a process or are you just always super motivated to do it?
I guess I must have a process, because I get up and I have this list in my head of what I need to do to get out there. So I'm like, okay, do this, take my vitamins, get my breakfast, make my coffee, grab my water, let the dogs out, let the dogs back in, and go turn on the gas, turn on the ventilation. Like all this whole process that's basically the same every time that I wake up. I'm like trying to get out to the job. So I guess I don't really struggle with the motivation as long as I've been working recently and I know that I need to get work done. There have been times when I'm like, I don't even want to work right now, and I just don't work for a month. and during those times, it is hard to get back on the torch. But once you do, then it's easier to go the next day too.
When you're making a piece, do you like draw it out first, or do you just pull up pictures to look at to kind of have an idea of your design?
I used to draw it, and then after that, I would just print it out. And now I don't even do that. I just use my phone, look at it from my phone. And so I do have pictures that I've drawn. I do have an old sketchbook, but it's been years since I drew anything out at all. I just kind of look at it and know this is going first, and then this, and then this. Like it's a whole process, like paint by number.
Can you tell us like how you make your income? Like, so you make your income through doing custom orders, and I'm assuming that you get a whole bunch of them, but you don't take all of them, right? And do you get those through like your website or through the internet, and you have like a supplier that sells your stuff too?
All right. Yeah. So at first it was just I had to find the glass blowers that needed milling. A long time ago, I had a head shop that carried my stuff in Portland, Oregon, and they've since closed down. But then there was the Maca group, or Maca, whatever you want to say, on Facebook. And once I got into that, I was able to actually connect with collectors and glass workers and make my sales through Facebook. And then, like the beginning of the pandemic, I was about to buy a house, and I'm like, I need more time to take care of my life and to work. I need to get off of the internet so that I can keep growing. So I talked to Derek Gross. He's a pretty big collector in the marine scene. And I knew that he used to want to be a kind of distributor. And so I talked to him and convinced him to go for it. I said, I'm going to send you a whole bunch of my glass, and this is how much I want for it. And just pay me when you have the money for it. So it kind of became an easy way for him to start his distribution company. So now he's my distributor. I occasionally go online and sell something myself, but I like to send my stuff to Derek. I prefer to, and I definitely have more time to work because of it.
Can you go a little bit into how you figure out prices for your work?
Sure. It used to be I did the math to figure out how much I would make hourly. And then it kind of turned into what can the market handle? What prices can I get away with, I guess? And then I decided, I'm not really there for collectors for the most part. I like to make cane marini so that glass workers can use it. My goal is to get the newbie glass worker to buy a bunch of milli and stick them on their fume pieces so that they can turn their $5 piece into a $15 piece with a $2 or $3 image. Stick and snap. You're just using a little bit of it. So that they can succeed and then come back to me and buy more, and then I can succeed. So it's kind of like a cooperative effort to make it.
Do you feel like people have treated you different as a woman in the glass industry?
Maybe 15 years ago, but not really anymore. I think both. I get to see how people treat Jesse and then how people treat me, and it seems pretty much the same. So no, I don't think that's an issue anymore. I think that there are plenty of women glass workers that outshine plenty of males as well. We hold our own. You gotta be tough to hang with the boys,
And do you ever have any experiences with imposter syndrome, or do you feel like you just know your place really well?
Growing up, my experience always was if I try to do it and I care enough, I do it very, very well. Also, I give up very easily on things that I don't do very well right away. You can pick and choose what you want to do. And if you're not good at it, just don't do it. And then whatever you do, you're good at. That was kind of my theory. Okay, so I was proficient in art because my brain is capable of, I guess, absorbing the detail and memorizing it and being able to recreate it. And that's kind of what I do with Marini. I've just always been really focused on that, like hyper focused on the recreation of what I see. So I discovered that the reason why I was able to just kind of kick butt in anything that I tried was because my brain is kind of fast and I was just gifted. I actually consider myself neurodivergent, just because, yeah, I do have to alter my life a little bit in order to interact with generally normal people. Difficult sometimes, and my whole family is that way.
What did you do for work before you started glass?
I had a couple different jobs, but the main thing I did was I ran a Godfather's Pizza. So I was like the owner's assistant. He didn't have a general manager, but I guess you could have called me that. So I kept the place organized, clean, inventory, kept customers at bay.
Like a past lifetime.
Yeah. I lived in jeans and a t-shirt.
Can you share any like big life lessons that you've learned through your lived experiences or things that might help other people?
Yeah. Um, so I think we all can agree that everybody kind of has an idol of some sort, someone that they've never met and look up to, maybe in their field or something, But I guess what I've learned, unfortunately, is don't meet your idols, okay? Because what you think of that person, the image that you have of that person, isn't what they are, and they're never going to live up to it. So, no matter what, you're setting yourself up for failure unless you are actually deciding, I'm going to meet this person and think of them as just a person that I don't know, you know, because that it puts a lot of pressure on that person.
People that you idolize are just people too.
Yeah, and it's just unfair to like have an idea of them before even meeting them. I guess my experience is the people that I idolized definitely let me down once I met them. There was only a couple of people maybe that I looked up to, and it just sucks being disappointed when you have an idea of someone and maybe it inspires you. I think it's important to hold on to that instead of losing it by like seeing the flaws in these people and then maybe being like pushed away from what they do after that point. You want to stay
Mm.
motivated, then keeping that false idea of your idol might help. But I don't know, it just depends on who you are. But that is really the biggest lesson I've learned personally.
Do you ever struggle with like anxiety or depression? Or is that something that you're
Oh yeah, I am this crazy artist. I've had depression. I suffer with anxiety. It's I think it's something that a lot of people deal with, especially nowadays. A lot of people have anxiety, but I make it work.
I just think it's so good to hear that we all have the same feeling sometimes, and it makes you feel so alone.
Yeah, I I don't know. I am like super into therapy. Like I think everybody should go to therapy, whether they feel like they have problems or not. It's nice to have someone to talk to and just kind of hash things out with and get a different perspective.
We are
Yeah.
a pro therapy podcast here.
Yeah, yeah. And then you're also not unloading that on the people that you love.
Besides going to therapy, do you have any other like tools that you utilize to cope and just get through day by day?
I like my own space. You know, my family knows that if I need my space, then they give me. I enjoy time alone because I get very overstimulated, I guess. There are times when, like, it's how do I explain it? It's just too much visual input, too much audio input, too much physical input. I just have to close my eyes and be in a quiet room and kind of calm myself down. And that is directly connected to, um, the fast activity of my brain. Okay, so I do get sensory overload. Um, I just kind of need no stimulation in order to get myself back on.
What do your kids think about glass? Are they into it or not really?
My teenager has actually been on and off the torch since they were 2. So they know kind of how to do it. They don't spend a whole lot of time doing it. I don't know if they want to have a career in glass, but I do know that they are willing to keep working in glass in order to kind of have a fallback if whatever their goal in life is not working out. Like, because they can always just go out to the shop and make a $20 pendant. You know, I guess my teenager has grown up with only glass workers as parents. So the whole mindset of, well, let's go out to eat tonight. Oh, I don't have any money. Okay, I'll just go whip something out and then sell it and then we can go. Like it's not the same as a parent that goes to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, comes back at 5 o'clock at night, and you have dinner and then go to bed, like, and get a weekly paycheck. They actually see that this is the work you do in order to get this benefit. So yeah, they are interested in kind of that. I guess you could call it security. You know, it's something you can always fall back on. 4-year-old, on any given day, he is anything. He's never asked to do any sort of glass work like the teenager has.
Have you ever had any struggles with getting your work out there or feeling like vulnerable about putting your work out there? And if you have, how have you dealt with that?
I don't think I've ever felt vulnerable about putting my work out there because my whole life I've had the confidence that what I've made is good enough. I mean, I don't have a lot of experience with being told that that's not very good. So that confidence is there. I guess I did have a little difficulty between 2003 and 2012 connecting with my customers. It was difficult. Like I would go to festivals and see glass blowers there and they would buy Marini there, or head shop, or just through friends. It really was kind of a supplemental thing though, because it was hard to find the glass workers because they're all in their shop, like staying away from everybody else, like all the rest of us glass workers. I mean, glass workers don't have regular jobs for a reason.
I never until we spoke to you did it occur to me that your customer base is not the general public at all. It's like your peers. So that must just be super interesting.
That's why I like making cane instead of coins, because I don't know. I like to provide something for that glassworking community. I don't really like making functionals anymore. I mean, I used to. I would make them and we'd have to go to head shops and sell them, but I was more interested in the Marini. And in order to survive back then, in order to have enough money to make the Marini, you have to find people to buy it. So whatever you make, it better be good because it's just a waste if you can't sell it, Back then it was like only make what people are begging you for.
But I bet glass workers, they don't want to put the time and energy into learning to do the part that you do. So at least they're appreciative of the labor that you put in, your skill.
Yeah. Yeah, there are some glass workers that are like, I wouldn't put someone else's work on my work. And, that's like a collab. And it's like, okay, then don't.
Is there anything else that you want to make sure people hear?
Go big or go home. Because with glass, you better either aim high or you're going to stay mediocre. Aim high.
Very good.
Yeah, that's good to end on.
Oh man, thanks so much for your time and for sharing everything.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Connected in Glass. Make sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more information on the artists we interview and for updates on the podcast.